Developing a culture of trust is critical to the health and success of your organization. I want to try to illustrate this, and I could spend a lot of time on it, so I'm going to try to make this quick. But let me read it again. Developing a culture of trust is critical to the health of your organization. Marcus Buckingham wrote a book called The One Thing. Anybody read The One Thing by Marcus Buckingham? Shout out for Marcus Buckingham. Incredible book, right? Our staff, our leadership team spent several months working through this book. At the beginning of this book, he gives an illustration that's so extraordinarily powerful, and here's the illustration. There was a group that did research on married couples, and they studied these couples for 20 years. And they were trying to find the common denominator among happily, highly compatible couples. And their theory going into this research was this. They assumed that the people who were happiest together were the people that knew each other the best, and consequently lowered their expectations over time so that they were rarely ever disappointed with each other, and consequently were able to stay together and stay in love. They expected the people who were most compatible and people they would consider happy to be couples who were so realistic in their estimation of each other that that's what facilitated their ability to stay together. What they discovered was the very opposite. What they discovered in happily married couples was this, that when one of the people in the relationship did something really ridiculous and created a gap, in the happily married couples, the other person in the relationship would automatically believe the best about them, and would come up in their minds with some explanation as to why she's late again, why he wasn't on time, why she spent so much money, why he had to travel as much. That in their minds, they fabricated a belief system, and they just naturally or over time learn to believe the best about their spouse. And the conclusion of this research is this, that love really is blind. That it's really blind. That people who are really in love and stay in love, they just have this is amazing, they have such an inflated view of their spouse that even when their spouse totally screws up, there's a sense in which they say, well, yeah, that did happen, but I'm sure there's a good reason. I'm sure as soon as he gets home and we talk about it, I'm sure it's going to work out. And they found this consistently. Now, you say, well, that's kind of living in denial. Well, in some respects it is. But hey, if it results in a happy marriage, hey, I'm all for denial, aren't you? Now let me flip it around. I'll show you how powerful this is. Don't raise your hand. Do you really want to be married to someone who truthfully points out your flaws every single day? No, honey, I see you're still overweight. Honey, your nose is still a bit crooked. You're still short. And you know what? They could point these things out every single day. Now listen, this is important. They could point it out every single day, and they would be absolutely right. They would be telling you the absolute truth. And you would be extraordinarily unhappy. See, I don't want friends who know my faults to consistently point out my faults. You say, Andy, are you insecure? Of course I'm insecure. I'm a human, right? Do you really want a friend that consistently points out all the things that are wrong with you? Or are your friends, the people you consider close to you, the people who overlook your faults and love you anyway and just believe the best? Those are your friends. That's how relationships begin. That's how relationships stay strong. I think this is a powerful principle that once we begin to implement, when there are gaps between what we expect and what we experience, this has the power to shape your culture in such a way that untrustworthy people become trustworthy, and the trustworthy people want to be in your organization. But I'm telling you, just like in those marriages they studied, it is a choice. We choose to believe the best.